Remember LiveJournal? Remember blogs on the internet with posts that were like this? And a person could discourse at length with a lot of nuance. And you could reply because it was on that person's blog. And later we got more platforms like WordPress, and there was consolidation. And over time, Facebook's consolidated a lot of that energy and activity. Twitter certainly shortened it down to how many characters? And then the pivot to video really took away that element of the written word online. Not that, of course, there's still blogs. We're not in the golden age of blogs anymore. But there was one person I wanted to pay tribute to today. A person that I read quite a bit, starting in the mid-2000s through the early 2010s, and then I sort of lost track. He was Mark Fisher, and he was the author of the blog K-Punk. Now, especially for Americans, they may not have heard of this blog. I wanted to draw attention to it because so much of it is so prescient today. He's a cultural theorist, certainly has a strong philosophy background, but he's very interested in navigating and unpacking pop culture in a much more deep way than just, I would say, like typical pundits are. This is someone who's not going for like the rhetorical kill so much, but first and foremost always has this kind of like humane ethos to his writing. So Mark Fisher was a British writer. He came out of the Cybernetic Culture Research Unit, which, if you look that up, certainly a very impactful group that has had a massive effect, actually, I think, on all kinds of bits of online, and now we can say online and the real world culture, then I think people understand. But so Fisher came out of that milieu and got very popular with K-Punk. And in time, he published a few books. This was published in 2018. It's the collected writings of the K-Punk blog. And as a tribute to Mark, a nod to Mark, respect to him, I just thought I'd read a few quotes to kind of give an idea of Fisher's sort of ability to cut through and not just be a contrarian, but be a contrarian to contrarians style of thinking that at this point in 2021, we need more of. So the pandemic of mental anguish that afflicts our time cannot be properly understood or healed if viewed as a private problem suffered by damaged individuals. If it is true, for instance, that depression is constituted by low serotonin levels, what still needs to be explained is why particular individuals have low levels of serotonin. This requires a social and political explanation. Downloading and Web 2.0 have famously led to new ways of assessing culture, but these have tended to be parasitic on old media. The law of Web 2.0 that everything comes back, whether it be adverts, public information films, or long-forgotten TV serials. History happens first as tragedy, then as YouTube. What if the counterculture was only a stumbling beginning, rather than the best that could be hoped for? Instead of saying that everyone, i.e. everyone, is responsible for climate change, we all have to do our bit. It would be better to say that no one is, and that's the very problem. The cause of eco-catastrophe is an impersonal structure which, even though it is capable of producing all manner of effects, is precisely not a subject capable of exercising responsibility. The required subject a collective subject, does not exist, yet the crisis, like all the other global crises we're now facing, demands that it be constructed. Okay, lastly, and this one's a bit wordy, but I think it's powerful. I want to get through to some of you. Fukuyama's thesis that history is climaxed with liberal capitalism may have been widely derided, but it is accepted, even assumed, at the level of the cultural unconscious. It should be remembered, though, that even when Fukuyama advanced it, the idea that history had reached a terminal beach was not merely triumphalist. Fukuyama warned that his radiant city would be haunted, but he thought its specters would be Nietzschean rather than Marxian. Some of Nietzschean's most prescient pages are those in which he describes the oversaturation of an age with history. It leads an age into a dangerous mood of irony in regard to itself, he wrote in Untimely Meditations, and subsequently even into the even more dangerous mood of cynicism, in which cosmopolitan fingering, a detached spectatorialism, replaces engagement and involvement. This is the condition of Nietzsche's last man, who has seen everything, but is decadently enfeebled precisely by this excess of awareness. Mark Fisher killed himself in 2017. He suffered deeply from depression. He wrote a lot about mental health, as well as lots of things in political and pop culture from the UK to the States. Movies, music, current events, you name it. Fisher was just an omnivore of thinkers. And I did see him speak once in New York. And he just a very modest guy who was trying to think his way through each crisis. We sort of lurch from one to the next over in our time now. And so I just wanted to say, give Mark Fisher a read up. He's the kind of thinker where you don't need to already have the vocabulary to speak his language, because he's just as open to teach you it along the way. And it really is a reminder, too, of the older discourse on the internet, the promise the internet used to have of helping people think in lots of dependent clauses. There's no immediate reactions of like, I like this, I don't like it. It's all gray, and it underscores the need for nuance and thought rather than knee-jerk judgment and reaction. Lastly, I just wanted to say, for you, yourself, or anyone you might know that may be suffering, be aware the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline, 1-800-273-8255. Again, that's 1-800-273-8255. Thank you for watching. Thank you, Mark Fisher, and I will see you next time. Read more.